Hello and greetings. This is Corey from the BachScholar YouTube channel. It's here and it has arrived. What am I talking about? Well, I'm talking about BachScholar's new, hot off the press edition of Robert Schumann's very famous and popular and beautiful Scenes from Childhood, Opus 15, Kinderszenen. Includes an essay and analysis of the composer's controversial metronome indications for piano, keyboard, clavier. This is a performance edition, so I have all my expert fingerings, and I have even extra pedal indications, and I even have a 4-page essay on Schumann's controversial metronome indications before the musical text. And so I'm going to walk you through this edition here. I won't show it to you now, but this was a labor of love and took a long time. These are short pieces, so I didn't think it would be a project that would take a long time for me, but it really did. It took a long time to do the research for the essay about tempo and all of that, and it really took a lot. This took more time than I thought it did, than it would have. And it's just a beautiful, beautiful edition, and I think it will be an excellent addition to all piano teachers and students' libraries, and also professional pianists' libraries as well. So without any further ado, I will walk you through this edition here. All right, so welcome to the showing of my new edition of Schumann's Scenes from Childhood, Opus 15. Is a very famous collection of pieces, which I have just recently issued in a BachScholar edition. I'm going to show you here the edition that I had been using for many years. I'm sure many of you are familiar with this Dover edition of Schumann's music here, edited by Clara Schumann. This is in Series 1. Anyway, this is the main Schumann book that I have had for many, many years. And so I originally learned these pieces using this Clara Schumann edition as printed in this Dover edition here. And it's not a great edition, quite honestly. I know it's from Clara Schumann, who was a great concert pianist, but it's just not the best edition especially for students and for non-professionals who are learning this. So that's one reason why I wanted to make a new edition, was to really make it for students and teachers and professionals at the same time. So I wanted to make an edition that was not dumbed down, but at the same time is instructive without insulting anybody's intelligence. And so there's an art and a craft to doing this. As I look through Clara Schumann's edition here, one thing, there's no fingerings indicated. Also, it always bothered me about the page turns. You see number 2 here, there's a page turn right here, terrible place for a page turn. And there are many other places, like this one here has a terrible page turn. And I first blamed it on Clara Schumann's edition. I thought, well, that's another reason why it's not a good edition. But then I realized it's actually Dover's fault, because when you look at the page number, when you look at the page numbers here, actually this page here on the right should have been printed on the left. And if you switch around all of the pages, if this goes on the left, and that goes on the right, and this goes on the left, and so forth, you're going to have no page turns. So originally, Clara Schumann's edition at least made an edition where you didn't have any page turns in the middle of a piece, but Dover screwed it all up. by flipping the pages around. And so I just realized this as I was making my own edition. So let me bring out the new BachScholar edition of Schumann's Scenes from Childhood. Here we go. This was published in April 2023. This took a lot of work. Probably I put more work into this volume than probably most of my other classical music volumes. And there's a few reasons for that. One reason was I discussed Schumann's controversial metronome indications, which those teachers and scholars have been talking about this for a long time. Schumann did have access to a metronome, and he did leave metronome speeds, but they're problematic. And so I provide an essay in here, a 4-page essay in which I discuss Schumann's possible reasons for his numbers and the use of the early metronome. And then I give my solutions and my tempos for the 13 pieces. So this is a performance edition. It's not an urtext. An urtext edition prints as is. They usually don't add anything except maybe fingerings. Performance editions, though, add fingerings, and they'll even add pedal markings and things like that. So yes, I unabashedly add some pedal markings and things of that nature to help people perform it better. I also do a lot of redistributing hands. So like if something's printed in the bass clef and it's easier taken with the right hand or something, then I'll print it differently. So that's one of the ways that my edition differs from the Clara Schumann edition is that these things appear different on the page, and I'll show you some of those examples coming up here. So let's turn through here. You have a table of contents, 13 pieces in all. And here's my preface, my essay on a little about this Schumann and this work, and then the rest of the essay is about 3.5 pages of talking about Schumann's controversial metronome indications and my solution to that. And I have a table here that's very useful, I think, if you want to get into that subject. Then we have the musical text here, which I think is very beautiful. It's one of my best editions. I take great pride in this edition. I went over it with a fine-tooth comb, and it is really just a fine edition. So one way that this edition is so fine are my fingerings. I have fingerings here from being a piano teacher for so many years. I have really innovative fingering solutions. For example, these dun da da dun. See these little grace notes and curious story. A lot of students have trouble with those. Well, I have a special fingering there. You might not be able to see it, but I think that my fingering works the best. And so I provide really very useful and practical fingerings. And as I said before, there's no page turns between individual pieces. Here is number 3. Number 4, I did a major redistribution of the hands on these notes here. The original edition, like Clara Schumann's edition, if you're familiar with it, the original edition had this, if you can see that, it's really just very awkward the way it's written here. Now, for an advanced person, that might make more sense, because I think what Schumann wanted really was maybe to play this with this, and then these two notes up in the treble clef with the left hand. And then, so he wanted sort of to alternate the hands going through there, but that just doesn't work for a beginner. And these pieces are played primarily by piano students and those who are not really that sophisticated to understand what all that stuff means. I mean, that looks really very thick and discombobulated the way that's printed. It's really very difficult to make sense of that. But what I've done is I've and there's no difference in sound. I've retained everything in the music, but I've simply redistributed the notes to make it not look so awkward. And it's also expanded here, so it's very easy to read. So this one was a major difference with its notation, which I took the liberty to do. And then you have number 5, number 6, important event. Those are pretty much as is. I didn't do a whole much of changing on that. This is the very beautiful and famous Träumerei, or Dreaming. And look at this. I have it on 2 pages. Most editions I've seen actually have it all crammed up on 1 page. So you get the beautiful Träumerei with my expert fingerings here, and it's very easy to read. That's number 7, Träumerei. And then you have at the fireside, this one here was another major change with its notation. If you look at the original, the piano teachers are well familiar with this, in that if you look at the original, the bottom note of the treble clef and the top note of the bass clef were switched around, so the thumbs have to cross. So there's an overlapping between the alto and the tenor notes. And it goes on like for almost the whole piece like that. It's really crazy. I mean, to do it literally with crossed thumbs is very, very difficult. It's really awkward and it's not fun. So what I've done, and I think maybe there might be other editions that do this, but I'm not sure. I think most editions tend to not do this. But I figured, well, why don't I just uncross the notes to make it that much easier to play? So you can be rest assured if you try to work on number 8, you're not going to have all those awkward thumb crossings here, because I've uncrossed those and I've provided my expert fingerings here as well. And we have 9, Knight of the Hobby Horse. Notice how my tempo is fast, but it's not like impossible. So it's very accessible for piano students. Here's number 10, a very beautiful, beautiful engraving of this here. I believe that most editions have number 10 either just on 1 page or maybe 1.5, and they have it all crammed up. But this is very easy to read. And then you have number 11, Frightening. And I have all the fingerings written out. Even when something repeats, I don't just assume that you know the fingering, but I write out the fingering again for you. Also, in Frightening, here's a very famous passage here that is really, really awkward, the way that the original is notated. It has like jumping, like a bass note with a big chord, a bass note and a big chord. It has huge chords in the left hand, and then so it's very left hand heavy, and it's really just strange the way it's notated. So I've taken the liberty to re-notate that. It's much, much easier to play with this notation than the original notation as in Clara Schumann's edition. So that's another very good example where students will thank me for doing that. And we have number 12, Child Falling Asleep. Once again, no page turns, right here on 2 pages. And here's another place. In A Child Falling Asleep, there's a very famous passage here where I have actually broken it up like this. The original doesn't. So the original Clara Schumann's notation for this passage here in Child Falling Asleep is really very awkward to do. But if you if you break up the notes differently, like I've done, it actually makes more sense and it's much easier to play and understand. So once again, this is much better notated here than in the original Clara Schumann edition. And then you have number 13 here, the very beautiful The Poet Speaks. This is all on one page. And very easy to read. Once again, with my expert fingerings. And then we have the end. And that is Schumann's Kinderszenen, Opus 15, Scenes from Childhood, includes an essay and analysis of the composer's controversial metronome indications. Get your copy today, hard copy or non-printable PDF, below the video. And thank you for watching.